Marcus Thunder Williams walked into the St. Augustine Medical Center parking lot at 10:52 p.m., terrified he was about to lose his dying father. But what he found in the snow wasn't death. It was the most heartbreaking act of courage he'd ever seen. 5 minutes earlier, a girl had been sleeping behind a dumpster, weighing maybe 98 pounds, hiding from the bitter Chicago cold. But when she saw a stranger collapse 40 feet away, she didn't run. She didn't hide. She sprinted. Her lips were blue from hypothermia. Her fingers were frostbitten. But those hands were steady, warm and rhythmic, performing textbook CPR on a man she didn't even know. "It's what I'm trained for." Those were the last words she whispered before she collapsed into Thunder's arms. Before we uncover the incredible discovery Marcus made in her pocket, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us tell more stories about real American heroes that the world needs to hear. As he caught her, a plastic bag fell from her tattered coat. Inside, carefully sealed like a holy relic, was an RN license. And beneath it, medical bills totaling $731,000. How does a system take a woman trained to save lives and leave her to die in a parking lot over a spreadsheet number? This isn't just a story about debt. It's a story about dignity. And it's the story of what happens when 187 brothers decide, not on our watch. 11 hours earlier, Sarah had been sleeping in a hospital parking garage stairwell, the warmest spot she'd found in 4 months of homelessness. She hadn't eaten a full meal in 4 days. Her nursing textbooks were sealed in a waterproof bag beside her. She couldn't bear to sell them. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she walked 3 miles to the public library to read medical journals, keeping her skills current for a career she could no longer practice. Her RN license had been suspended 9 months ago, not for incompetence, not for malpractice, for failing to pay an $850 administrative processing fee that she couldn't afford, because debt collectors were already garnishing wages from a job she'd lost, because she was living in her car, because her apartment rent was $1,100. But she was only taking home $809 a month after garnishment. It was a perfect trap. Can't work without a license. Can't pay the fee without work. Can't get the license without paying the fee. So she'd stopped trying. 4 months ago, when her car was repossessed and the debt collectors added another $3,100 in recovery fees to her balance, Sarah had made peace with dying. Not dramatically. Not with a note or a plan. She'd simply decided to stop fighting the cold. Thursday, January 27th, was supposed to be that night. Then Marcus Williams's father had a heart attack at home, and everything changed. Marcus got the call at 10:47 p.m. "Your dad collapsed. Chest pains. Ambulance en route to St. Augustine Medical Center." He'd thrown on his Hells Angels vest and ridden his Harley through icy streets, arriving at the ER at 10:52 p.m. But the ambulance wasn't there yet, delayed in traffic. So Marcus paced outside in the parking lot, smoking, watching for lights. At 11:02 p.m., he heard movement near a dumpster, a figure sitting up from against the hospital's exterior wall. Thin, hunched, wearing a coat that had maybe been warm 5 winters ago. Then Marcus saw what the figure was watching. A man in his 60s, stumbling from his car 40 feet away, clutching his chest, going down hard on the ice. Marcus started moving, but the homeless girl was faster. She sprinted across that parking lot like her life depended on it, dropped to her knees beside the collapsed man, and her hands moved with precision Marcus recognized from military medics, checking pulse, airway, position. She looked up at Marcus, and her voice cut through the freezing air with absolute authority. "Call 911 now. Tell them 60s male, cardiac arrest, CPR in progress. I need you to run inside and get the AED from the ER entrance. Red box on the wall. Go. Not a request. A command. Marcus ran. When he returned 90 seconds later with the automated external defibrillator, she was performing compressions. Perfect rhythm. Counting aloud. 28, 29, 30. Tilt head. Rescue breath. Back to compressions. She was shaking violently from cold and exertion, but her hands never faltered. Open it, she said without looking up. Turn it on. Follow the voice prompts. When it says clear, make sure no one's touching him. Marcus fumbled with the AED. The machine analyzed the man's heart. Shock advised, charging, stand clear. She lifted her hands, scooted back. Clear. Marcus pressed the button. The man's body convulsed. Resume CPR, the AED instructed. She was back on him immediately. 30 seconds later, the man gasped, coughed. His eyes fluttered open. She checked his pulse, nodded. He's back. You did good. Marcus stared at her. I didn't do anything. You just saved his life. She finally looked at him. Her face was gaunt, her lips blue, frostbite visible on 3 fingers of her left hand where gloves should have been. She couldn't have weighed more than 100 pounds. It's what I'm trained for, she said quietly. Then her eyes rolled back and she collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the pavement. She weighed nothing. ER staff rushed out with a gurney for the cardiac patient. A nurse reached for the girl. Sir, we need to treat her too. Hypothermia. But something fell from her coat pocket. That plastic sleeve. Marcus picked it up, saw the license, saw the numbers on the papers beneath. He looked at the nurse. She's with me. Sir, she needs medical attention. I've got a paramedic in my club. Marcus lifted Sarah carefully. She was unconscious, her breathing shallow. Tell my father I'll be back in an hour. Raymond Williams. Ambulance is incoming. The nurse started to protest, but Marcus was already walking to his bike. He'd spent 23 years as a union steward fighting insurance companies. He'd watched his own sister die of a preventable infection in 2019 because she couldn't afford follow-up care after surgery. Medical bankruptcy had killed her as surely as the bacteria. He knew exactly what would happen if he let them take Sarah inside that ER. They'd treat her. Then they'd bill her. Add another $50,000 to that $731,000. Trap her deeper. Not on his watch. Marcus secured Sarah on his bike, wrapped in his jacket, and rode 38 miles to the Great Lakes Chapter Clubhouse in southwest Detroit. He made 3 calls during that ride. First call, 11:27 p.m. Frost, I need you at the clubhouse now. Hypothermia patient, unconscious, female, early 20s. Bring your full kit. Second call, 11:31 p.m. Wolf, I've got a case for you. Medical debt investigation. It's going to make you sick. Third call, 11:34 p.m. Thunder, the chapter president. We've got a situation. I'm calling in the whole chapter. Every brother. This one matters. By midnight, 5 motorcycles were parked outside the clubhouse. By 12:30 a.m., Sarah was on a cot with IV fluids running, heated blankets, her core temperature slowly rising. Frost, the paramedic, monitored her vitals while Wolf spread her documents across a table, reading with increasing disbelief. By 1:00 a.m., Wrench, the chapter's financial forensics specialist, was at his computer, pulling her debt file with her verbal consent once she'd regained consciousness. By 2:00 a.m., they'd made a discovery that would change everything. This wasn't just one nurse's bad luck. This was systematic, calculated, profitable. And it had a name. Mitchell Hartwell, Regional Director of Apex Recovery Solutions. If you believe that healthcare should heal people, not destroy them, comment justice and subscribe, because what these brothers discovered next would bring a $47 million scheme to its knees. At 3:47 a.m., Sarah woke up disoriented in a room that smelled like motor oil and coffee. Her first instinct, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'll leave. I didn't mean to—" "Stop!" The voice was gentle, but firm. Marcus Williams sat beside her cot, still wearing his Hell's Angels vest. "You saved my father's life tonight." Sarah blinked, confused. "The man in the parking lot?" "No. Different guy." Marcus leaned forward. "My dad had a heart attack at home. Ambulance got stuck in traffic. If you hadn't saved that stranger, if I'd been inside the ER panicking instead of outside waiting, I wouldn't have seen my dad's ambulance arrive, wouldn't have been there when they wheeled him in." He paused. His voice dropped. "You gave me 5 minutes with him before surgery. Maybe the last 5 minutes I'll ever get. He made it through, by the way. They put in stents. He'll recover." Sarah started crying. She couldn't stop. Months of holding everything together, and this stranger's kindness shattered her. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. "Here's the deal, Sarah. You saved my family. Now my brothers are going to save yours. We don't settle debts with money, we settle them with action." He slid her RN license across the blanket. "This is who you are. A nurse. Not a debt. Not a case number. A healer." Behind Marcus, Sarah could see other men in the room, 5 of them, all wearing similar vests, all watching her with expressions she couldn't read. Marcus stood. "You've been fighting this alone for 11 months. You're done fighting alone. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we go to war." The next 72 hours would prove he wasn't speaking metaphorically. Friday morning, 9:15 a.m., Wolf made his first call. Daniel Reeves, road name Wolf, had spent 15 years as an insurance fraud investigator before he realized the real fraud was on the other side of the desk. Predatory billing. Debt collection schemes. Financial vampirism dressed up as healthcare services. His daughter's friend had died by suicide over medical debt at 19. Wolf had left corporate investigation work that day and never looked back. Now he specialized in taking apart collection agencies. He started with Sarah's consent form. She'd signed it at 2:30 a.m., when coherent enough to understand what they were asking. Then he called his contact at the county records office. "I need a complete file pull. Medical debt case, collection judgment, wage garnishment orders. Name, Sarah Elizabeth Monroe. Case number." He read it off her paperwork. 20 minutes later, his contact called back. "Wolf, you're not going to believe this. The original hospital bill was $283,000. Sold to Apex Recovery Solutions for $33,960. That's 12 cents on the dollar." "Standard," Wolf said. "What's the current balance?" $731,000. Apex added 340% interest, which is legal in Illinois for medical debt, unfortunately, plus collection fees, court costs, repossession charges. She's been paying through wage garnishment, but it's all going to interest. Principal hasn't moved. Wolf did the math in his head. $731,000 on a debt they paid $34,000 for. They've already extracted $67,000 from her wages. They're up $33,000 and she's homeless. "That's not even the worst part," his contact said. "There are 47 other cases with identical patterns. All young healthcare workers, all hit by uninsured drivers, all in the same billing code category." Wolf went still. "Say that again." 47 cases, same hospital, same collection agency, same financial profile, recent graduates, licensed professionals, student loans maxed, 0 assets. It's like someone's specifically targeting them. Wolf looked across the clubhouse at Sarah sleeping on the cot. Then he looked at Wrench, the financial analyst, who was already pulling up his forensic accounting software. "Send me the list," Wolf said. "All 47 names." By Friday afternoon, Wrench had the files. He spread them across 3 tables, printed documents, highlighters, sticky notes marking patterns. Former accountant habits died hard. Marcus walked in at 4:00 p.m. with Thunder, the chapter president. Marcus Thunder Williams was 54, gray beard, arms covered in union tattoos. He'd been UAW steward at a GM plant for 23 years before retiring to run the chapter full-time. His sister had died of medical bankruptcy. He had zero patience for healthcare profiteering. "Show me," Thunder said. Wrench pointed to the first pattern. Hospital billing. St. Augustine Medical Center charges uninsured patients 380% more than insured patients for identical procedures. Sarah's surgery, $167,000. Same surgery for insured patient, $44,000. ICU stay, $19,400 per day versus $3,200 for insured. It's systemic price gouging. Thunder's jaw tightened. They bill the most vulnerable people at 4 times the rate? Gets worse, Wrench said. Sarah's itemized bill includes $67,000 in procedures that were never performed. Phantom charges. I cross-referenced her medical records. Frost got them with her consent using his hospital connections. The procedures don't exist in her chart. Marcus leaned over the documents. They billed her for surgeries she didn't have? Anesthesia for a procedure that wasn't done. Physical therapy sessions while she was still in ICU. Medications she was allergic to. It's in her intake form, but they billed for them anyway. Wrench pulled up a spreadsheet. Conservative estimate, $67,000 in fraudulent charges. Thunder looked at the papers, then at Sarah sleeping across the room. So her actual medical care cost around $216,000, not $283,000. Still insane for what amounts to emergency surgery and 8 days of recovery, but at least real. And then Apex bought it, Wolf added. He dropped a folder on the table. This is where it gets criminal. He opened the folder to reveal printed emails. Apex Recovery Solutions, regional director named Mitchell Hartwell. I pulled his correspondence through a contact in the legal system. These became discoverable in a previous lawsuit. Look at this email dated 13 months ago, 1 week after Sarah's accident. Thunder read aloud. Monroe S., high-value target, recent nursing grad. RN license, clean credit prior. She'll pay. Prioritize. They knew she'd just graduated, Wolf said. They specifically targeted her because she was a licensed professional. Here's another email. Insurance gap confirmed. She's undefended. File garnishment immediately upon sale completion. Marcus felt his hands forming fists. They hunted her. There's more. Wolf flipped to another document. This is Apex's training manual for collectors. Section on handling homelessness claims. Quote, homelessness is temporary leverage point. Do not reduce debt. Maintain pressure. Family intervention occurs in 67% of cases within 6 months. Thunder read the document twice. His voice came out quiet, which was more dangerous than shouting. They factored her homelessness into their business model. They counted on it, Wrench said. Look at this financial projection spreadsheet. Sarah's case is listed with an 8-year collection timeline. Apex paid the hospital $33,960. They project collecting $412,000 over 8 years through wage garnishment and interest. Profit margin, 1,114%. The room went silent, except for the hum of Wrench's computer. Thunder walked to the window, looked out at the Detroit skyline. When he turned back, his expression was carved from stone. How many others? 47 confirmed, Wolf said. All young healthcare workers, all hit by uninsured drivers during job transition periods, all targeted by Hartwell's division at Apex. And Hartwell? Wolf pulled up a photo on his laptop. Mitchell Hartwell, 58, expensive suit, corporate headshot smile. Lives in a $1.2 million suburban mansion. Drives a Porsche Cayenne. Church deacon. youth sports sponsor, makes $340,000 base salary plus 12% commission on collections. Last year, his division brought in $91.6 million. Thunder stared at the photo for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone and made a call. Yeah, it's Thunder. I need you to make the call. Emergency chapter meeting. Every brother within 100 miles. Tomorrow, 2:00 p.m. Clubhouse. He listened, then responded. Child endangerment? No. Worse. Systematic destruction of young people trying to heal others for a living. Medical debt predation. We've got evidence of fraud, 48 victims, and a collection agency director who's pulling down 7 figures doing it. Another pause. How many do I need? All of them. Every brother we've got. Because we're not just fixing this for Sarah. We're burning down the whole operation. He ended the call and looked at Marcus. Your dad stable? Yeah. Talked to him this morning. Asking when he can ride again. Marcus smiled slightly. Told him he saved a nurse's life just by having a heart attack at the right place and time. Poetic. Thunder turned to the others. Frost, you stay with Sarah. Medical monitoring, counseling support when she's ready to talk. Shepard. He nodded to Luis Ramirez, the former school guidance counselor sitting quietly in the corner. I need you to document her full story, testimony, timeline, everything. We're building a legal case. Shepard nodded. I'll be gentle. She's been through enough interrogations. Wolf, Wrench, keep digging. I want to know everything about Mitchell Hartwell. Where he lives, where he banks, where his kids go to school, every political donation, every parking ticket. If he's got a mistress, I want her name. If he's got offshore accounts, I want the routing numbers. On it, Wolf said. Thunder looked at the papers spread across the tables. 48 lives reduced to case numbers and profit projections. Young people who'd dedicated themselves to healing others, now being systematically destroyed by the very system they'd tried to serve. He thought of his sister. Brilliant woman. 3rd-grade teacher. Dead at 47 because a preventable infection became unstoppable when she couldn't afford the follow-up antibiotics. Medical bankruptcy had taken her house first, then her hope, then her life. We've got 36 hours before Monday morning, Thunder said. That's when Apex escalates Sarah's case to final collection action. Asset freeze, extended garnishment, additional fees. We need to move fast. He walked to Sarah's cot. She was still sleeping, Frost's IV drip keeping her hydrated, heated blankets bringing her core temperature back to normal. Frostbite scars visible on 3 fingers, 98 pounds, 22 years old. She looked like a child. Thunder turned back to his brothers. Tomorrow, full chapter meeting. We vote on full mobilization. If the chapter agrees, we go to war Monday morning. Legal war, media war, political war. We don't stop until that collection agency is shut down and every one of those 48 victims gets justice. Marcus stood beside him. And if the chapter votes no? Thunder smiled, but there was no humor in it. Then I'll do it myself with whoever wants to join me. But I don't think that's going to be a problem. He was right. Saturday, 2:00 p.m., the clubhouse parking lot looked like a motorcycle convention. 187 Hells Angels from the Great Lakes chapter had shown up. Some rode 3 hours through freezing weather to be there. They packed into the meeting room, standing shoulder to shoulder, all wearing their vests. Thunder stood at the front. Behind him, a projector displayed one image, Sarah's RN license photo. Young, smiling, proud. Next to it, a photo from Friday morning. Sarah unconscious on the cot, skeletal, frostbitten. This is Sarah Monroe, Thunder said. 72 hours ago, she saved Marcus's father's life while dying of hypothermia. She's 22 years old. She's a registered nurse. She graduated nursing school with honors 14 months ago. She wanted to spend her life helping people. He clicked to the next slide. Her medical bills. This is what the system did to her. $283,000 in bills for emergency surgery after a drunk driver hit her. Driver fled the scene. No insurance. Sarah's hospital job insurance hadn't activated yet. Still 4 days away. Hospital denied financial aid because she was employed, even though she hadn't received a single paycheck. Next slide. Apex Recovery Solutions documents. Hospital sold her debt to this collection agency for 12 cents on the dollar. Agency added 340% interest. They garnished 75% of her wages before her first paycheck cleared. They repossessed her car. They got her nursing license suspended when she couldn't pay an $850 administrative fee. They drove her into homelessness, and then their training manual said to maintain pressure, because her family would probably pay eventually. The room was silent. Thunder clicked to the next slide. Mitchell Hartwell's photo. This is the man who runs the division that targeted her. Mitchell Hartwell. Makes $340,000 a year, plus 12% commission on collections. His division made $91.6 million last year by doing this to young healthcare workers. We've identified 47 other victims. All the same pattern. All young nurses, paramedics, medical techs. All hit during job transitions. All targeted specifically because they're licensed professionals who'll do anything to keep their credentials. He turned to face the chapter. I'm asking for a vote on full chapter mobilization, legal investigation, media exposure, political advocacy, community support. We don't stop until Apex Recovery Solutions is shut down and every single one of those 48 victims gets justice. We're talking months of work, fundraising, legal bills, time away from families, potentially putting targets on our backs from a corporation with deep pockets. He paused. But here's what I know. Sarah Monroe saved Marcus's father's life while she was dying. She's a healer. And this system is killing healers for profit. If we don't stand up for people like her, young people trying to help others, then what the hell are we doing wearing these vests? The room stayed quiet for 3 seconds. Then Frost stood. I'm in. Wolf stood. In. Wrench stood. All the way in. One by one, every man in that room stood up. Not a single dissent. 187 men voting with their feet. Thunder looked at Marcus. Marcus was crying. All right then, Thunder said quietly. Let's go save a nurse and break a system. Monday morning, 6:00 a.m., Wolf and Wrench pulled into the parking lot of St. Augustine Medical Center in an unmarked sedan, not their bikes. They wore button-down shirts, slacks, carrying briefcases. They looked like insurance adjusters or hospital administrators. That was the point. The stereotype says Hell's Angels show up in force, leather and chrome, intimidation through presence. But Wolf had learned something in 15 years investigating fraud. The real power isn't in looking dangerous, it's in looking like you belong. They walked through the main entrance like they'd done it 1,000 times. Wolf nodded to the security guard. George Sullivan, 58, night shift wrapping up. Wolf had called ahead. George was expecting them. Conference room B is open, George said quietly. 15 minutes before shift change. You'll have privacy. Appreciate it, Wolf said. They set up in the conference room. Laptop, documents, recording equipment. By 6:20 a.m., Dr. Patricia Chen arrived, still in her scrubs from the overnight shift. She sat down across from them, exhausted. I'm not supposed to be talking to you. We know, Wolf said. Everything you say is confidential unless you give permission otherwise. We're not reporters. We're not lawyers yet. We're just trying to understand what happened to Sarah Monroe. Patricia closed her eyes. I knew her. 3 years ago, nursing student rotation in my ER. She was exceptional, the kind of nurse who'd give you the shirt off her back. She opened her eyes. I saw her living in her car in the parking garage 8 months ago. Wolf opened his notebook. You recognized her? Not at first. She'd lost so much weight. But one night she came into the ER, not as a patient, as a visitor. An elderly homeless man had collapsed outside. Sarah brought him in, stayed with him, advocated for him. I saw her name on the visitor log, and it clicked. Why didn't you help her? Wrench asked. Not accusatory, just asking. Patricia's voice cracked. I tried. I offered her money. She refused. Said if I gave her anything, the collectors would seize it through court order. I asked if she needed medical care. She said she couldn't afford to be treated here. This hospital would just add to her debt. I watched her condition deteriorate all winter. Every time I saw her, she looked worse. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to a photo. I took this 2 months ago. I was going to report her situation to social services, but she begged me not to. Said it would just create more problems. The photo showed Sarah asleep in her car, parked in the garage's darkest corner. She looked like a corpse. The last time I saw her was 3 nights before she collapsed, Patricia said. She was sleeping in the ER waiting room. Security found her at 2:00 a.m., but she wasn't bothering anyone, so they let her stay until morning. George Sullivan, Wolf said. Patricia nodded. George has a good heart. Better than most of us. He never reported her because he knew what would happen. They'd ban her from the property, and she'd lose the one warm place she had. Wolf made notes. Dr. Chen, in your medical opinion, how long had Sarah been malnourished when she collapsed? Months. Severe malnutrition. BMI around 15. Her body was consuming muscle tissue to survive. She was maybe 2 weeks away from organ failure. And if Marcus Williams hadn't brought her to his paramedic that night? Patricia met his eyes. She would have died. Hypothermia at that stage, with malnutrition, dehydration, untreated bronchitis. She had hours, not days. Wolf closed his notebook. Would you be willing to testify to this in court, or speak to media? Yes. No hesitation. I took an oath to protect life. That includes protecting people from systems that kill them. They thanked her, and she left for her shift. At 7:30 a.m., George Sullivan came to the conference room. He'd just clocked out, but had agreed to stay. George was a big man, soft-spoken, the kind of security guard who'd rather de-escalate than escalate. He sat down heavily, like the weight of what he'd witnessed was physical. I found Sarah sleeping in the ER waiting room 5 times, he said, November through January. I never reported her because she wasn't causing problems. She'd sit in the corner, reading medical journals from the rack, then fall asleep around 2:00 or 3:00 a.m. when it was quiet. I'd wake her up before the morning shift arrived, walk her to the door, make sure she was okay. Did you interact with her? Wrench asked. A few times. She was polite, apologetic. One night I bought her coffee and a sandwich from the vending machine. She tried to refuse it. When she finally accepted, she cried. George's voice got rough. I asked her why she was here, at this hospital. She said it was the only place that felt like home. She'd trained here. This was supposed to be her workplace. Wolf leaned forward. George, did you ever witness debt collectors harassing her? George's expression darkened. Twice. 4 months ago and 6 weeks ago. Both times in the main lobby during visiting hours. 2 men in suits, not security, not hospital staff. They cornered her by the coffee stand. I couldn't hear everything, but I heard enough. What did you hear? One of them said, You can't hide from this. We'll garnish every dollar you ever make for the rest of your life. You understand that? Every dollar! Sarah was shaking. She said something like, I don't have anything left to take. And the guy laughed. He actually laughed and said, We'll see about that. Wolf felt his jaw tighten. Did you report this to hospital administration? I filed an incident report both times. Said unauthorized solicitors were harassing a visitor. Nothing happened. I followed up a week later, asked my supervisor what came of it. He told me to drop it. Said the men were from Apex Recovery Solutions, and they had legal right to contact debtors on public property. So the hospital knew collectors were hunting her on their grounds, and did nothing. George nodded. Not just nothing. The second time, I saw one of the collectors talking to someone from hospital administration afterward. Friendly conversation. Like they knew each other. Wrench and Wolf exchanged looks. "George," Wolf said carefully, "would you be willing to testify about what you witnessed?" "Absolutely. I've got 26 years in security. I know what harassment looks like. What those men did to that girl, that was predatory. And the hospital letting it happen on their property?" He shook his head. "I'll testify." By Monday afternoon, Wolf and Wrench had interviewed 2 more witnesses. Dorothy Martinez, 51, ran the volunteer coordinator program at St. Mary's Shelter, 6 blocks from the hospital. She sat in the clubhouse conference room with Shepard taking notes while she spoke. "Sarah came to the shelter 9 times between August and January," Dorothy said. "But she only stayed once. Every other time, she'd check in, see who else was there, and give her bed to someone she thought needed it more. Mothers with children, elderly people. She always said she was okay outside, and someone else deserved the warmth." Shepard kept his voice gentle. "Did she explain why she was homeless?" "Eventually. The 3rd time I saw her, I pulled her aside and asked directly. She broke down, told me about the medical debt, the garnishment, losing everything. I told her we had a nurse volunteer position opening, unpaid, but it would give her professional experience, keep her skills current. She said no." "Why?" "She was terrified the debt collectors would find out she was working and come after the shelter. She didn't want to bring that trouble to people who were helping others. That's who she was. Even homeless and starving, she was protecting other people." Dorothy pulled a tissue from her purse, wiped her eyes. "The last time I saw her was 3 days before she collapsed. She looked terrible. I begged her to stay in the shelter that night. She refused. Said a mother with an infant needed the bed more." "That mother with the infant," Shepard said. "Do you remember her name?" "Jennifer Ortega. She's still here, actually, with her baby. Sarah gave up shelter on a 7-degree night so Jennifer could stay warm." Shepard made a note to find Jennifer, get her statement too. The 4th witness arrived at 4:00 p.m. Amanda Foster, 24, former nursing school classmate. She walked into the clubhouse nervous, fidgeting with her purse strap. Amanda sat down across from Shepard and immediately started crying. "I should have done more," she said. "I should have helped her. We graduated together, got our licenses the same week. We were so excited. We were going to change the world." Shepard waited. "Sarah got the job at St. Augustine same time I got hired at Northwestern. We were supposed to start the same week. Then she got hit by that drunk driver. I visited her in the hospital every day during recovery. She was so positive. She kept saying, 'It's just a setback. Insurance will cover it. I'll be back to work in a month.'" Amanda twisted the tissue in her hands. "But insurance didn't cover it. And I watched her spiral. First she lost the apartment, then the car. She stopped answering my calls after 5 months. I tried to find her, but she'd disappeared." "When did you learn she was homeless?" 2 months ago. I was doing an ER rotation at St. Augustine, cross-training. I saw her sleeping in the waiting room. I didn't recognize her at first. She was so thin. When I realized it was Sarah, I tried to talk to her. She ran. Literally ran out of the hospital." Amanda looked at Shepard. "I'm a nurse. I took the same oath she did. And I let my friend become homeless because I didn't fight hard enough to help her." "You're here now," Shepard said quietly. "That counts. Is she okay? I heard she collapsed, that some bikers—" Amanda stopped, looked around the clubhouse, registered where she was. "Oh, you're the bikers." Shepard nodded. "She's recovering. Safe. Getting the care she needs." Amanda exhaled. "Thank God. Can I see her?" "When she's ready. Right now she's processing a lot of trauma. But I'll tell her you came. I'll tell her you still care." Amanda nodded, crying again. By Monday evening, Wolf had compiled a timeline that made his stomach turn. The institutional failure ladder went deeper than anyone had imagined. St. Augustine Medical Center had failed Sarah first, charging her 380% more than insured patients, adding $67,000 in phantom procedures, denying financial aid on a technicality, then selling her debt for pennies while she still believed she could negotiate. But that was just the first rung. The second rung, Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, which suspended Sarah's nursing license for non-payment of fees that only existed because of her debt. They'd created a catch-22 that made it impossible for her to work her way out. The third rung, the courts, which approved Apex's 75% wage garnishment and asset seizure without questioning whether someone could survive on $890 a month while owing $731,000. The fourth rung, Law Enforcement and Social Services, which classified Sarah as a voluntary homeless individual rather than a victim of financial fraud, making her ineligible for emergency assistance programs. And the final rung, the one that made Wolf's hands shake when he found it. The Illinois state legislature had passed a law in 2019, championed by State Senator Richard Pierce, that classified medical debt as priority debt, allowing collection agencies to bypass normal bankruptcy protections. Wolf pulled up Senator Pierce's campaign finance records. Top donor, 2019 election cycle, Apex Recovery Solutions. Amount, $47,000. Mitchell Hartwell had personally donated $28,000 to legislators who opposed medical debt reform. He'd helped write the law that destroyed Sarah. Wolf printed the document and walked it to Thunder's office. Thunder read it twice. Then he picked up his phone. "Yeah, it's Thunder. Connect me with Senator Pierce's office. Tell them Marcus Williams from the UAW is calling about medical debt legislation. I'm sure the senator will want to talk." While Thunder made calls to politicians, Wolf and Wrench focused on Mitchell Hartwell. They found him Tuesday morning at 8:30 a.m., pulling into the parking lot of Apex Recovery Solutions headquarters in a Porsche Cayenne. He wore an expensive suit, carried a leather briefcase, whistling as he walked to the entrance. Wolf and Wrench didn't approach. Not yet. They watched. They documented. They followed him to lunch at an upscale steakhouse where he met with 2 hospital administrators. They photographed him paying with a corporate card, laughing over $80 steaks, while Sarah was still recovering from malnutrition at the clubhouse. They followed him home that evening to his $1.2 million house in a gated community. Wife, 2 kids, golden retriever. The kids were playing basketball in the driveway. Hartwell hugged them both, ruffled their hair, the picture of suburban fatherhood. Wrench looked at Wolf. "He goes home to that every night?" "Yeah." "While Sarah sleeps in stairwells?" "Yeah." "How do people like him sleep?" Wolf had been asking himself that question for 15 years. He still didn't have an answer. Wednesday morning, the trap closed. Thunder had spent 2 days coordinating with a pro bono legal team from Chicago. They'd filed an emergency injunction blocking Apex from any further collection activity on Sarah's account, pending investigation of fraudulent billing. They'd subpoenaed Mitchell Hartwell's emails and financial records. They'd contacted the Illinois Attorney General's office with evidence of systematic predatory practices. But Thunder wanted more than legal action. He wanted Mitchell Hartwell to understand what he'd done. Wednesday, 7:45 a.m., Hartwell pulled into his reserved parking spot at Apex headquarters. The lot was empty except for one vehicle, a single motorcycle. Thunder sat on his Harley, arms crossed, waiting. Hartwell stopped walking. Recognition flickered across his face. He'd been warned by his legal team that Hell's Angels were investigating Sarah Monroe's case. He reached for his phone. "Go ahead," Thunder called out. "Call security. Call police. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to talk." Hartwell hesitated, then pocketed his phone. Some combination of curiosity and ego made him approach. "You're the biker from the Williams case," Hartwell said. "Marcus Williams. Sarah saved my father's life. You tried to destroy hers." "I don't destroy anyone. I collect legal debts according to Illinois law. If your friend didn't want debt, she shouldn't have gone to the hospital." Thunder felt something cold settle in his chest. "She was hit by a drunk driver. Emergency surgery. She didn't have a choice." "Everyone has choices. She could have negotiated. She could have declared bankruptcy. She tried all of that. Your company blocked every option. You hunted her specifically because she was a licensed nurse." Hartwell's expression didn't change. "We pursue high-value cases. That's business." "She was living in a stairwell. You knew that. Your training manual calls homelessness temporary leverage. I don't write the policies. I follow them." Thunder pulled out his phone, showed Hartwell a photo of Sarah from Friday morning. Skeletal. Frostbitten. Unconscious. "This is what your policies look like." Hartwell glanced at the photo, then away. "I'm sorry she made poor financial decisions." "Poor financial decisions." Thunder repeated the words slowly. "She was 22 years old. Hit by an uninsured drunk driver. She tried to pay. You garnished 75% of her wages, then got her license suspended so she couldn't work. You created a trap she couldn't escape. If she couldn't pay, she shouldn't have accepted medical care." Thunder stared at him. That was when he understood. Mitchell Hartwell wasn't evil in the way villains in movies are evil. He wasn't cackling or sadistic. He was worse. He was indifferent. He'd calculated Sarah's suffering into a profit margin and moved on. "You're done," Thunder said quietly. "The Attorney General has your emails. The media has Sarah's story. The state legislature is opening hearings on medical debt reform. Your company is going to be investigated, fined, probably shut down. And you personally? I'm guessing you'll be looking for a new job by next month." Hartwell's confidence flickered. "You can't prove intent." "We don't have to. The documentary evidence proves the system is designed to destroy vulnerable people for profit. Intent doesn't matter when the outcome is this consistent." Thunder started his bike. "Tell your lawyers we'll see them in court. Tell your shareholders their profit model just collapsed, and tell yourself, when you go home to your $1.2 million house tonight, that somewhere out there is a 22-year-old girl who nearly died of hypothermia because you needed a bigger commission check." Thunder rode away. That afternoon, the full chapter mobilized. 187 motorcycles rolled up to the Illinois State Capitol building at 2:00 p.m. Wednesday. They didn't rev engines. They didn't shout. They parked in perfect formation, dismounted in silence, and walked into the building wearing their vests. The legislators noticed. They stood in the gallery during a committee hearing on healthcare reform. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their presence said everything. "We're watching. We represent people you've failed. And we're not leaving." State Senator Richard Pierce, the one who'd taken $47,000 from Apex, tried to adjourn the meeting early. The committee chair refused. "These citizens have a right to observe their government." That evening, Thunder returned to the clubhouse. Sarah was awake, sitting up, eating soup that Shepard had made. She'd gained 4 pounds. Her color was better. Frost said her vitals were stable. Thunder sat down beside her. "We've got a court hearing Friday morning. Emergency injunction to freeze your debt while we investigate fraud. We've got 4 witnesses lined up. We've got documentary evidence of Apex targeting you specifically. We've got hospital billing records showing phantom charges." Sarah looked at him. "What does that mean?" "It means you're not fighting alone anymore. It means we're going to break the people who did this to you." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "What about the others? The other 47 people?" Thunder smiled. "We're going after all of it. 48 victims, class action lawsuit, attorney general investigation, legislative reform. We're not just saving you, Sarah. We're fixing the system that broke you." She started crying. Again. But this time it wasn't despair. It was hope. Friday, 9:00 a.m., Cook County Courthouse. Judge Maria Castellanos presiding. Sarah sat at the plaintiff's table between two pro bono attorneys, wearing clothes that actually fit, donated by Shepard's wife, cleaned and pressed. She still looked fragile, but she was present. Conscious. Fighting. Across the aisle, Mitchell Hartwell sat with three corporate lawyers in $2,000 suits. Behind Sarah, the gallery was packed with Hell's Angels. They'd left their vests at the clubhouse, Thunder's orders. "We show up as concerned citizens today. Let the evidence speak." But everyone in that courtroom knew who they were. Judge Castellanos reviewed the emergency injunction request. "Ms. Monroe, I've read the filing. The court has also received evidence from the Illinois Attorney General's office regarding Apex Recovery Solutions practices. Before I rule, I'd like to hear from you directly. Can you tell me, in your own words, what happened?" Sarah's hands shook. Shepard had spent 3 days helping her prepare this testimony, but sitting in court facing her collectors was different than practicing in the clubhouse. She looked back at Thunder. He nodded once. Sarah took a breath and began. 14 months ago, I graduated nursing school with honors. I got my RN license. I was hired at St. Augustine Medical Center. I was going to start work on Monday, October 17th. My health insurance would activate that day. Her voice steadied as she spoke. On Thursday, October 13th, 4 days before my first shift, I was driving to orientation when a drunk driver ran a red light and hit me. He fled the scene. I had a ruptured spleen, fractured pelvis, internal bleeding. I needed emergency surgery. She looked at the judge. I woke up 8 days later. The hospital saved my life. I'm grateful for that. But when the bill came, $283,000, I couldn't pay it. My insurance wasn't active yet. The hospital said I didn't qualify for financial aid because I was employed, even though I hadn't started work or received any paychecks. Sarah pulled out her documents. I tried to negotiate a payment plan. They offered me $4,700 a month. My nursing salary would have been $4,100 a month after taxes. I couldn't pay more than I earned. The hospital sold my debt to Apex Recovery Solutions 73 days later. Apex added 340% interest. They filed wage garnishment before my first paycheck cleared. They took 75% of my pay. I was bringing home $809 a month. My rent was $1,100. Her voice cracked, but she continued. I lost my apartment after 2 months. I lived in my car for 7 months. Then they repossessed my car and added $3,400 in fees. I couldn't pay the license renewal fee because I had no income. They suspended my nursing license. Without my license, I couldn't work. Without work, I couldn't pay the fee. Without paying the fee, I couldn't get my license back. Sarah looked directly at Mitchell Hartwell. I've been homeless for 11 months. I tried to get help. Hospital financial aid rejected me. Bankruptcy court rejected me. State assistance rejected me. I raised $12,000 on GoFundMe, and Apex seized it through court order, applied it to fees, not the actual debt. She turned back to the judge. 3 weeks ago, I was sleeping in a hospital parking garage stairwell because it was warmer than outside. Temperature was 11 degrees. I hadn't eaten a full meal in 4 days. I was ready to die. I'd decided that Thursday night would be my last night. The courtroom was silent. Then a man collapsed in the parking lot. Heart attack. I ran to help him. I performed CPR. I saved his life. And then I collapsed from hypothermia and malnutrition. Sarah's voice dropped to a whisper. If Marcus Williams hadn't caught me, if his friends hadn't helped me, I would have died that night in the same parking lot where I saved a stranger's life. Judge Castellanos looked at Hartwell. Mr. Hartwell, do you have a response? Hartwell's lead attorney stood. Your Honor, While we sympathize with Ms. Monroe's situation, Apex Recovery Solutions acted within the full bounds of Illinois law. The interest rate, wage garnishment, and collection procedures were all legally authorized. We purchased legitimate debt from a hospital and pursued standard collection practices. Standard practices, the judge repeated. She looked at another document. I'm reading an email here from Mr. Hartwell to his collection team, dated 1 week after Ms. Monroe's accident. Quote, recent nursing grad, RN license, clean credit. She'll pay. Prioritize. Mr. Hartwell, did you write this email? Hartwell's attorney started to respond, but the judge cut him off. I'm asking Mr. Sister Hartwell directly. Hartwell stood slowly. Yes, Your Honor. That email reflects our assessment of the case's collectability. You targeted her specifically because she was a licensed professional. We prioritize cases with higher likelihood of payment. That's standard business practice. Judge Castellanos read another document. Here's another email. Insurance gap confirmed. She's undefended. File garnishment immediately upon sale completion. You knew she had no insurance when you purchased her debt. That information was included in the file we purchased from the hospital, yes. And you proceeded to garnish 75% of her wages despite knowing this would make it impossible for her to afford housing. Hartwell hesitated. The garnishment rate is set by Illinois statute, Your Honor. But the decision to pursue maximum garnishment was yours. The judge set down the papers. I've reviewed the evidence presented by the Attorney General's office. 48 cases with identical patterns. Young healthcare workers, all hit by uninsured drivers during job transitions, all targeted by your division, all driven into financial collapse. This isn't standard collection practice, Mr. Hartwell. This is systematic predation. She turned to Sarah. Ms. Monroe, the emergency injunction is granted. All collection activity on your account is frozen pending completion of the fraud investigation. Apex Recovery Solutions is prohibited from contacting you or garnishing any future wages. Sarah exhaled a breath she'd been holding for 11 months. Furthermore, Judge Castellanos continued, I'm ordering Apex to provide the court with complete files on all 48 cases identified by the Attorney General within 10 business days. If the fraud allegations are substantiated, this court will consider sanctions including debt forgiveness and punitive damages. She looked at Hartwell. Mr. Hartwell, you may want to consult with your legal team about your personal liability in this matter. Court adjourned. Sarah walked out of that courthouse with Thunder on one side and Marcus on the other. The January sun was bright, cold, clean. She stopped on the steps, closed her eyes, and felt it on her face. It's not over, Thunder said gently. This is just the injunction. We've still got the full investigation, the class action lawsuit, the legislative hearings. I know. Sarah opened her eyes. But for the first time in 11 months, they can't hurt me. That's enough for today. Over the next 8 weeks, Sarah's life reassembled piece by piece. Housing came first. Diesel, the firefighter who'd coordinated the chapter's rapid response, knew a landlord in Detroit who owed him a favor. A studio apartment, $650 a month. First month free. Clean, safe, heated. Sarah walked into that empty apartment on a Tuesday afternoon. Just her, a sleeping bag, and a box of donated clothes. She sat on the floor and cried for 20 minutes. Then she called Shepard. I have a home, she said. I forgot what it feels like. Shepard arrived an hour later with furniture from the clubhouse storage. A bed frame, a small couch, dishes, a coffee maker. Wolf and Wrench showed up with groceries. Frost brought a first aid kit, vitamins, protein supplements. You're going to eat 3 meals a day, Frost said, unpacking food into her refrigerator. Doctor's orders. Medical care came next. Frost used his EMS connections to get Sarah into a clinic that specialized in treating uninsured patients. Real appointments, blood work, dental checkup, a therapist who understood trauma. The therapist's name was Dr. Yolanda Pierce. She sat across from Sarah during their first session and asked one question. "What do you need to feel safe?" Sarah thought for a long time. "I need to know they can't take this away. The apartment, the food, the quiet. I need to know I'm allowed to exist without apologizing for it." "You are," Dr. Pierce said. "And we're going to work on helping you believe that." The therapy sessions happened twice a week. Shepard drove Sarah to every one, waited in the lobby, drove her home. Never intrusive. Just present. Legal protection came through the Attorney General's investigation. By mid-March, the evidence was overwhelming. Apex Recovery Solutions had systematically targeted 217 young healthcare workers across Illinois, not just the 48 they'd initially identified. The company had purchased medical debt from hospitals at pennies on the dollar, then destroyed lives to collect maximum profit. The Illinois AG filed criminal charges against Mitchell Hartwell and 3 other Apex executives. Fraud, racketeering, conspiracy to commit financial exploitation. Civil penalties. $12.8 million in fines. Mandatory restitution to all victims. Hartwell was fired by Apex's board of directors on March 22nd. By April, he'd lost his house, his Porsche, his country club membership. His wife filed for divorce. His LinkedIn profile went dark. Thunder told Sarah the news over coffee at the clubhouse. Sarah's response surprised him. "I'm not happy about it." "No?" "I wanted him to understand what he did, to feel remorse, to change." She stirred her coffee. "But he didn't. He just lost everything the way I did. That's not justice. That's just revenge." Thunder considered this. "Maybe, but it means he can't do it to anyone else." "That's something," Sarah agreed quietly. By April, Sarah was ready to face the hospital. St. Augustine Medical Center's billing fraud was harder to prove criminally. The hospital argued their pricing structure was legal, just unethical. But public pressure was mounting. Wrench had given Sarah's story to a journalist friend at the Chicago Tribune. The investigative report ran front page. How a homeless RN exposed a $47 million medical debt scam. The hospital's reputation collapsed overnight. Donors threatened to pull funding. Medical students boycotted their residency program. The board of directors called an emergency meeting. They offered Sarah a settlement, complete forgiveness of her debt, an apology, and $100,000 for pain and suffering. Sarah sat in Thunder's office, reading the settlement offer. "What do you think I should do?" "That's your choice," Thunder said. "But I'll tell you what I think. Settlements come with non-disclosure agreements. If you take their money and sign that NDA, you can't talk about what happened, can't testify, can't help the other 47 victims, can't push for the systemic changes that would prevent this from happening to the next Sarah." She looked at him. "What if I don't take the settlement?" "Then we keep fighting. Class action lawsuit, legislative hearings, media exposure. It'll take months, maybe years. It'll be exhausting, but it might actually change something." Sarah thought about the other victims. Young nurses, paramedics, medical techs, all trapped in the same system that had tried to kill her. She thought about the next 22-year-old nursing student who'd graduate with honors and dreams of helping people, only to have one accident destroy everything. She pushed the settlement offer across Thunder's desk. "Tell them no, we fight." May brought the first major victory. The Illinois state legislature introduced the Medical Debt Fairness Act. State Senator Richard Pierce, the one who'd taken money from Apex, tried to block it. His opposition lasted exactly 1 day before he was confronted by 187 Hell's Angels standing silently in the Capitol gallery. The bill passed 94-12. Key provisions. Medical debt interest capped at 6%, down from 340%. Hospitals must bill uninsured patients at the same rate as insured patients. Professional licenses cannot be suspended for debt unrelated to professional conduct. Wage garnishment for medical debt limited to 15% of income, down from 75%. Mandatory charity care programs for patients earning below 400% of federal poverty line. Sarah testified at the legislative hearing wearing her old nursing scrubs with her suspended RN license pinned to the pocket. She spoke for 8 minutes. No notes. Just her story. "I became a nurse because I wanted to heal people," she said to the assembled legislators. "The system that's supposed to support healthcare workers nearly killed me for that choice. If we don't fix this system, we'll keep losing nurses, paramedics, doctors, anyone who dedicates their life to caring for others. Is that the healthcare system you want?" The gallery erupted in applause. The committee chair had to call for order 3 times. The bill passed both chambers within 2 weeks. The governor signed it into law on June 1st. Sarah stood beside Thunder at the signing ceremony. The governor handed her the pen he'd used. "You changed the law," Thunder said afterward. "We changed it," Sarah corrected. "You, me, 187 brothers, 47 other victims, everyone who believed this was wrong. That's how systems break. Together." 10 months later. Sarah Monroe walked through the automatic doors of Detroit Medical Center's emergency department at 6:52 a.m. for her shift. She wore clean scrubs, her new RN license badge clipped to her pocket, her name embroidered across the chest. S. Monroe, RN, BSN. She'd been working here for 6 months. Frost had called in a favor with the ER director, who took one look at Sarah's transcripts and hired her immediately. The work was hard. Night shifts, trauma cases, the steady pressure of life and death decisions every hour. Sarah loved every minute of it. At 7:15 a.m., the charge nurse called a code. "Cardiac arrest, Trauma Bay 3. Sarah grabbed the crash cart and ran. The patient was a young man, mid-20s, motorcycle accident, massive internal injuries. His brother stood in the corner, wearing a Hell's Angels vest, Ohio chapter based on the patches, his face frozen in terror. Sarah worked the code with her team. Chest compressions, medications, defibrillation. The monitor showed erratic rhythm, then flat, then erratic again. She kept going, counting compressions, calling for supplies, reading the rhythm. The mechanical beep of the heart monitor was chaos. Then, after 6 minutes of CPR, the monitor settled into a steady rhythm. Beep, beep, beep. Regular. Strong. Alive. "We've got a pulse," the attending physician announced. Sarah stepped back, breathing hard, hands shaking from adrenaline. The patient was stable. Alive. They'd won this one. The brother in the corner was crying. He looked at Sarah's name tag, then did a double take. "Wait, Sarah Monroe? The nurse from Chicago?" She nodded, still catching her breath. "You're a legend, ma'am. My chapter reads your story to prospects. This is why we fight." He wiped his eyes. "You saved my brother's life just now. You saved your own life. You saved a whole system. How do you do it?" Sarah looked at the patient, stable now, being prepped for surgery. She thought about that frozen parking lot 11 months ago, the night she'd decided to let the cold take her, the stranger whose life she'd saved with her last bit of strength. Marcus catching her when she fell. "I don't do it alone," she said. "None of us do. We all fight. Some of us just wear scrubs instead of leather." The brother smiled through tears. "We're all the same army." "Yeah," Sarah said. "We are." The Medical Debt Fairness Act passed. Mitchell Hartwell lost everything. $8.3 million was returned to victims. Those are the headlines. But the real ending of this story happened quietly, 3 months later, in a warm apartment in Detroit. Marcus visited Sarah and found something sitting on her kitchen counter. It wasn't her new, active nursing license. It was the old one, the suspended one he'd found in the snow that night. "Why keep that?" he asked. "You have a new life now." Sarah smiled, a smile earned through fire and ice. "I keep it because I never want to forget. I want to remember that when the government failed me, when the hospital billed me into homelessness, and when the world walked past me, one person stopped." For those of you watching, we often judge the book by its cover. We see leather vests, tattoos, and roaring engines, and we feel fear. But sometimes, the toughest-looking people are the only ones soft enough to care. Sarah Monroe isn't alive today because of a lawsuit. She is alive because a man chose not to walk away. Life is fragile. So please, be the one who stops. Be the one who reaches out. Because sometimes, justice doesn't arrive in a courtroom. It arrives on 2 wheels, with the roar of 200 engines, and a simple promise. We take care of our own. Thank you for watching. Share this if you believe kindness is still the strongest force on earth.